The United States is pulling out its forces from Afghanistan after 20 years. In this limited episode series, we at Naya Daur will be exploring the implications of this withdrawal on peace and security within Afghanistan as well as in Central and South Asia. We will also be exploring the competing interests which are dominating this delicate period in Afghanistan's history. My first guest is Najeebullah Azad, who is a political activist in Kabul. He was the founder of Daur movement and has also served as a national spokesperson for President Ashraf Ghani.
Najeebullah, there's a lot of talk about an imminent takeover by the Taliban once they withdraw their forces in September. At the same time, there are those who also insist that Afghanistan is facing the possibility of a protracted civil war. Taliban has captured a lot of territory as US pulls out, and it is being reported that provincial capitals have been besieged. And these gains seem to have given Taliban a great deal of confidence about their position. At the same time, the government in Kabul, Ashraf Ghani's government, is also holding its ground and is insisting that Taliban neither have any will for peace, nor do they have the capacity to hold these territories. So I want to ask you, what is your assessment of this entire situation?
Unfortunately, yeah, the war in Afghanistan is at its height right now. And yes, of course, Taliban have captured a lot of area. I mean, during these 20 years, that's the first time that during the last 2 months, they could have captured many areas, including some districts. But what the international community and regional powers or countries foresee a civil war, I don't agree with that, because Afghanistan today is totally different than 90s. In 90s, well, there was a regime, Dr. Najib's regime. It was an ideological regime. The war was between two superpowers or two ideologies, communism and socialism. And that ideology collapsed in the entire world. Even the ideology was no more in Moscow. And then the entire world, from Pakistan to Middle East countries, to the Westerns, and at the end, even USSR shaked their hand with Mujahideen. And Dr. Najib regimes remained all alone. Secondly, those jihadi groups in the 90s, when they reached Kabul, they started fighting over the power. And there was no opportunity for other countries or for proxy wars to have their influence in Afghanistan and then start their proxy war against each other. But now, in 2021, during these 20 years, many regional powers, international powers, they have invested in Afghanistan. They have their influence here. And then in the 90s, we did not have any international terrorist groups. We have IS, we have Al-Qaeda today, and the international community will not let any situation that pushes Afghanistan into a civil war. Because if it goes into a civil war, it will be a civil war for Afghans, but for the international community, it will be an international threat. The countries, the intelligence, the proxy, or conspiracy theories during these 20 years would threat the entire world each other. So I don't see any civil war in the coming future. And secondly, Afghan government, the Afghan president, yes, he has made this very clear that Taliban do not have any intention towards any peace process because, well, Taliban on one hand, they have been fighting. And secondly, they have got a year ago, they have got a political prestige that was given by the United States. A superpower for the first time in the history of the world, a superpower comes and signs a contract or an agreement with a friction. And that friction has got the confidence that they could have take over politically and militarily. But I do not also see any intention in Taliban towards peace, because if we go to the history of wars in the world, during negotiation, during talks on the table, well, they first go to a ceasefire. But Taliban do not go to a ceasefire. They continue fighting while they try to talk on the table. And secondly, just a few days ago, the Taliban spokesman made this very clear that they want President Ghani to step down, to resign. So there is a confusion. If the war is against a person who is Ashraf Ghani, then why you made a couple 100,000 people leaving their homes during these two months? You know, the internal displaced people, IDPs, and they lost their loved ones, and then they lost they left their homes and stuff. But I don't see this as a demand for Taliban to ask President Ghani to step down. But of course, during conferences, press conferences, or releasing any statements or declaration, they would have some words. So at the end of the day, well, Afghan government has the constitutional responsibility, liability to protect the geography and the nation. And of course, if there is a war against the Afghan government in the country, they would, of course, will go to defend. And as long as the Taliban will not go to any ceasefire or peace process for a short period of time, the Afghan government will go to the fight with them.
So again, it's the question remains a bit unresolved. Are we facing the threat of an imminent takeover, or are we facing a long fight? Or are we hoping that at some point there is going to be a political negotiation, and as a result of that there will be some form of peace in the country? So what is the fear on the ground regarding the situation?
Well, as far as I see the current situation in my own observation, it's not an Afghan war, it's not a civil war, it's not a war between the Taliban and Afghan government, but the regional powers are involved, right. And there is interest of the regional powers in the United States and Westerns. So the international community will not let the situation go for a long war. I see the current situation as a pressure on both sides, on the Afghan government and of course on Taliban. And soon, maybe within 2 to 3 months, the regional powers, the international community, including the United States and the Afghan government and Taliban, will go to an international conference under the management and leadership of the United Nations, as it was discussed before, like 2 to 3 months before. So I see the situation will go to an international conference within 3 months, and then there will be decision will be made by all parties. So I don't see any civil war. I don't see any prolonged war more than 3 or 4 months.
Great. Okay. So my next question is about how the Afghan society has changed over the last 2 decades. I want to ask you about the period of reconstruction and what is at stake for the people of Afghanistan in this moment of a transition. And what is the memory of Afghan citizens of the Taliban rule of the 90s?
Well, a 180-degree changed. During 90s, we didn't even have a single asphalted road connecting the provinces, connecting the cities to districts. Now the entire country is connected. We have a railway in the west. We have in last 20 years or 2 decades, more than 7,000 PhDs we have got. Every year, around 50 to 60,000 graduates we have. We have 6 million children going to school today. We have sports, we have cricket. We just participated in Olympic 3 days ago. And meanwhile, women, we have in parliament, I guess that it will be the only parliament in the world where we have around 30% of women, they're seated there. We have women in politics, in the entire political institutes. We have women as journalists. We have around national and international media outlets. We have around 100 televisions and more than 500 radios. And we did not have a single thing in 90s. Meanwhile, when Taliban left or when their regime was collapsed, the children of 1, 5, 10 years old are 20, 25, and 30 today. And they are making 65% of today's Afghanistan's population. So we cannot even think of comparing today with 90s. So a lot of developments, infrastructure, international communication, connectivity, diplomacy, political structure, 350,000 military and all that stuff is, of course, we did not even have a single thing in 90s during Taliban's regime.
Okay, so the Taliban insists that the territories that they have captured were not taken by force and that it was a peaceful takeover and the locals welcomed the Taliban forces. And they also, again, as you know, they're insisting that we want a negotiated power sharing agreement. In a statement, a Taliban spokesperson even admitted that the ruling by force did not help anyone, including them. So do you think, because in our country, in Pakistan, there is this huge narrative that says, no, Taliban have changed now. And in all their interviews to Al Jazeera or wherever you see to the international outlets, they try to present an image of themselves as moderates, as people who have learned lessons from the last 20 years as well. So what is your assessment? How, from their behavior and from how they have captured territory, what do you think?
Well, the first thing that when they claim that they are changed, international community, including Pakistan, should see the delegation in Doha, the Taliban delegation. Do you see a single engineer, a doctor, a politician, a person who has graduated from a modern scientific school? Do you see any single woman in Taliban's negotiation team? That's their political elite team. Secondly, the districts or area they have captured so far, it's not only the Afghan media or the Afghan government, but the international media. We in the West or in the North, more than 50,000 families during last month, they became IDPs. They have left their homes. And there are reports that in areas they have captured or an area they have taken over, they made people the men to have to grab their beard, like in 90s, the women to use their, to wear the burqas, do not go out with without a family man or a muharram. So all that stuff, they are not changed. Secondly, second part of your question, that they have taken over the area without any fighting or war. Yes, I do agree, but I see that a strategic plan of the Afghan government. See, in the war, you were army. Either they fight and they are defeated, they died, they leave their casualties. Secondly, they join the Taliban. Thirdly, they run away. But all these three scenarios have not been seen so far. The units have been left to Taliban and they join their army back. So that could be a strategic plan, because for two reasons, I guess. One thing, the Afghan government tried to show to the world that, see, the Taliban, they have been claiming that they are changed, are not changed. The places they have captured, they don't have the capability, the capacity to governing a technical thing, scientifically political science. And then they made the Afghan people to rise against Taliban. And during 2 months, couple 100,000 people, unfortunately, the Afghan society, it's kind of tribal society so far, and everyone at home, they have a weapon. So they went out and stood against the Taliban. So I would see this as a strategy of the Afghan government, leaving the districts to Taliban to show to the world that how they are today, are they changed or not? And secondly, they try to make people's uprising against Taliban, and they did that. But Taliban, of course, they're claiming that they have taken over so many districts. They did, but they did not fight. So that means without fighting, taking districts mean that you don't have that military power to take a collapse a regime.
Got it. Okay, so my next question to you is that the Taliban, they continue to attack Ashraf. We've already discussed a little bit of this earlier, but I'll just ask you again. The Taliban continue to attack Ashraf Ghani's government as an illegitimate one, and this issue has become a sticking point in the negotiations between the Taliban and the government in Kabul. So I want to ask you about the perception of Ashraf Ghani's government within Afghanistan. How is it perceived by the popular people of Afghanistan? How popular is he, and how controversial is he, and how much are people willing to stick to this particular government in the face of this entire crisis?
I would like to talk about legitimacy first. Afghanistan has a constitution, an Islamic constitution, yeah, and it's in accordance with the Hanafi fiqh. Secondly, Afghanistan, the government we have today is a democratic government. Doesn't matter how many votes Ashraf Ghani in 2019 got, but well, there was an election, and of course, in a country, a war-torn country, we cannot expect elections that we have in developed countries. Even in the United States, you know, that the Trump and Biden things went to conflict. So it is illegitimate. We have with 190 countries, we have diplomatic relations. We have their embassies here. We have our embassies in foreign countries. That is legitimacy. We have part of the international conventions, the United Nations conventions. So legitimacy, introducing our definition of the legitimacy, this is how the Afghan government is legitimate. Secondly, it's not about a person. It's not about Ashraf Ghani, if people like him or not, if he is happy in Afghanistan or not. Of course, politicians in countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and these neighboring countries, they're not very well popular. It's about the regime. It's about the structure of the government. We have got three branches here: an executive, judiciary, and we have legislative branch of the government, a totally democratic government, Islamic democratic government. The people of Afghanistan, their perception, they stick with their government. Doesn't matter if Ghani is a president today and maybe XYZ will be president the next day, but they will not go to any dictatorship, to any Islamic extremism that persons or people sitting in a room decide your life, how you practice your life, and they decide your culture. The 90% of the Afghan people, they're all against this type of ideology or theory, but they are pro-Afghan government. It's not about Ghani, it's the entire structure. The way we are talking today is one of the achievement of this democratic structure. So in that case, Ghani has plus points in Afghan people's mind.
I understand. So, and in this entire process, what has been the role of foreign powers in facilitating the withdrawal, and what kind of security guarantees have been offered to the people of Afghanistan in the wake of this American withdrawal? And a related question to this is, of course, what has been the role of China, Iran, Pakistan, and others, Turkey, for example? As you also mentioned that there are foreign powers involved. So what has been their role in guaranteeing stability as American forces withdraw?
Well, like I mentioned before, it's not an Afghan war. It's not a war between Taliban and Afghan government, but it's an international war in other terms. It's the war over the interest of the regional powers and the Western. So in this case, not only the regional powers, not only Pakistan, China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and Middle Eastern countries, but the Westerns, they have their own interest in Afghanistan. There is the interest of regional connectivity. There is the computation of political computation, economical, and military. There is a geographical thing here in Afghanistan. But the regional powers, in particular Pakistan, they have their role in Afghanistan. It's not the Afghan government claiming that Pakistan has provided safe haven to Taliban or other terrorist groups, but it's the Pakistan government itself. Sheikh Rashid, an interim minister of the Pakistani government, represents a stage. Just a month ago, with Salim Safi in Jirga, he acknowledged, he said that Taliban's family live in Pakistan, their dead bodies are brought to Pakistan, their injured ones are treated in Pakistani hospitals. So all that stuff makes Pakistan on the top. So as long Pakistan do not cooperate, and then of course Russia, China, they have their own interest, Iran. If they do not cooperate, the situation will not get better, and it won't only stick to Afghanistan. It will cross the borders, and we have seen that international terrorism in Afghanistan and threaten the entire world. We don't forget, we have not forgotten 9/11. And the second part of your question, that if there is any security guaranteed by the international community after the U.S. forces withdrawal, well, the U.S. president just 2 days ago talked over the phone with the Afghan president and made sure that they will provide the air support in fighting against terrorism. and they will continue supporting the Afghan army in terms of maintenance and logistics. They will continue supporting economically, financially, the Afghan government. The entire international community will do this, and of course, they will keep their diplomatic relation with the Afghan government. But in terms of a typical confidence or guarantee to the entire nation, unfortunately, during these 5 decades, the wars, the ongoing battles, wars, conspiracy theories, the maximum Afghan population, they were kept illiterate, and they cannot analyze things. So of course there is a confusion, there is a fear in people that, well, what will happen in next in coming days. But people who are managing things, who can analyze things, there is a protection guarantee from the international community, not for Afghanistan, for their own interests. If anything bad happens in Afghanistan, if we go to a civil war, the international terrorism will have their platform again, and Afghanistan will change into a safe haven for the international terrorists, and that would threat the entire world, the West, East, and South. So there would be a guarantee to resolve the Afghan issue within 3 to 4 months, I see, because the international community will not like to go into a war that will make them losing a lot of things, not only human, but a lot of other developments. So I don't see any a worse situation than this, and it will take a few months to get things better and to get things bring to a better board, a positive board, across a positive board.
Thank you. And I have one last question. The relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan at the current juncture are at an all-time low. Do you see these relations improving as in this next 3 months, as you say, that the international community is going to facilitate some kind of settlement? So do you see relations improving as part of this?
Well, unfortunately, countries, they have their own interest. The international political theories, the security dilemma and two-level game, that for your own small interest, you're gonna hit another straight, and they make a lot of loss. The Pakistani, the Afghanistan issue started in 1970s during Cyclone operation, the longest and the most expensive CIA operation in those days. And an American congressman who was very popular as a playboy in the United States, Charlie Wilson, came to Pakistan, signed an agreement with Ziaul Haq, and then provided a lot of money to Pakistan, and then started the entire thing, and then the civil war, all that stuff. So the relation between Pakistan and Afghanistan was never good in the past, but recently things come out to media, and especially after the kidnapping of the Afghan ambassador's daughter in Pakistan, which violates all the international conventions, including Vienna Convention, including the OHCHR UN Convention, and ICCPR. In Pakistan, during these 10 days, roughly 10 days or 2 weeks, could not have provided a statement that can make sure that Pakistan is working on this case and they will help. So the relation between Pakistan and Afghanistan will not go to a better place unless international pressure is not put on Pakistan and ask Pakistan to pull out their hands and supporting the terrorist groups or Taliban, and making them no safe havens anymore. Unless Pakistan does not feel the international pressure, things between the two countries will not go into a right path.
Thank you so much, Najeebullah. This was fantastic. I'm going to stop recording, and then we can just have a conversation.